save 18 Rand.
And that's why we shop at Spar.
Welcome back. Government remains adamant that its proposed 100 billion rand transformation fund will help uplift black suppliers and businesses in South Africa. The fund aims to channel the money into smallish firms that are majority black owned and controlled, either as loans, grants or investments. Think tank, the Centre for Development and Enterprise, has warned that the fund could actually undermine transformation efforts. To discuss, we're joined by the Centre's Executive Director, Ann Bernstein. And thank you for being with us. Firstly, are you opposed to transformation at all?
Let me be very clear. South Africa is a deeply unequal society, and we have to change that. We have to expand millions of opportunities for black South Africans who haven't had them before to own businesses, to start new businesses, to be employed at very high levels and all levels in our society. That's what CDE works on all the time. So we are absolutely in favor of a much faster and much more inclusive economy. We just don't think the transformation fund is going to do that.
Yeah, you say it's a lose-lose, that it won't achieve inclusion or growth. Why do you say that?
Well, you need to look at a number of aspects of this proposed fund. Firstly, we don't think that the money will be raised voluntarily, and I can go into the detail on that. Secondly, we're very concerned about a part of transformation the government has introduced, which seems to be working reasonably well, which is part of the BEE codes, which encourage large companies to have black-owned firms in their supply chains, to mentor them, to get services from them. This seems to be working well. But one of the proposals of the fund is that actually the fund should deal with this, not the companies. And we just don't understand how this could be good for small firms that are part of, take for example, a large corporate that mentors these firms, that gives them markets and training. Why would this be good to take them away from the supply chains in which they're embedded and are doing okay from all that we know? So,
as I understand it, and the companies will now have a choice, right, to either have these black-owned businesses in their supply chain, or they can contribute to the fund. But then, like you say, it stops them caring about those businesses themselves in their own supply chain, when they're in the same business, passing on knowledge and the like.
Well, it's worse than that. So it's bad for the small firms in these supply chains. The government says, we want you to voluntarily give us the money, the 3% of profits that you're putting into these black firms in your supply chains. Rather give it to this enormous fund, and we'll do a better job of helping small black firms throughout the country. But you're the company, and you say, well, I've still got to get those services. So you want me to give you this money, and I still have to get these services. Even worse, we think that it's unlikely the government will raise the kind of money they're talking about, 20 billion every year for 5 years to get to their 100 billion. And if you look at this, the small print of this document, or one section, they say we're going to change the BEE codes so that companies will have to give us this enterprise development money, enterprise and supplier development money. So the implication is there, and it is possible that it might not be voluntary after all when government finds that they really need this money, because they will struggle to get the money from the other sources that they've identified. But Francis, I would raise another problem. So in addition to these firms, black firms who are in corporate supply chains being disadvantaged, which is bad for transformation and bad for the economy, The corporates will have to pay more, and that's bad for the economy if it becomes an effective tax. And shareholders and consumers and workers will pay for that. But then you have to look at what this fund is proposed to do. And to be perfectly honest, we cannot imagine the nature of this fund. This is going to be a fund that will provide all sorts of financial support to come to small enterprises in the main, different kinds, grants, loans, equity investments, all sorts of financial assistance. But in addition, it says it's going to help small firms to get accredited, to get skills, to get access to markets, and a whole range of other things, mentoring and other things. And you think, gee, how are you going to do this across the country, especially if you want to also focus on rural areas and townships? This is a Superman fund that we cannot imagine functioning. And what makes you think that a mega fund in government is going to be more effective than private players at helping to build a transformed, black-owned, dynamic small business sector of growing firms? It's sort of incomprehensible. So we don't understand that. We don't see this as positive for growth or for transformation.
So let me end with this. What will work? You say the current efforts are paying some dividends, but many feel that transformation, the rate of it is just way too slow.
We are saying two things. The one is that in a stagnant economy, it's very hard to see an accelerated pace of transformation. And we have to get a much faster growing economy. That will be good for everybody. We're also saying the country needs a serious review, an evidence-based review, which the President says he's in favor of, evidence-based policy making. Fine. We want to review what have we achieved in the last 20 plus years with the current approaches to transformation. There's the National Empowerment Fund, there's the Black Industrialist Fund, there's all sorts of things, a panoply of laws and requirements. What's worked? What hasn't worked? Who's benefited? Who hasn't? Let's get evidence on the table on the current approach to transformation. And then let's discuss where we're not doing well and how we can do much, much better. But a more state-oriented, statist approach is not going to be the solution, especially when our state is so weak and very corrupt.
All right, Ann Bernstein from the Centre for Development and Enterprise. Thank you for giving us your views and many views on this 100 billion rand proposed transformation fund, envisaged transformation fund. We will be following those debates. Now, water tanks will be available to residents in Ekurhuleni in